Let's say a very special good afternoon to Shantae Codrington from W.I.R.E with Dadley Industrial Renewable Energy Limited.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's to you, Dave. It's great to see you again. I hope all is well, and I hope that this new year brings nothing but love and success to you.
The same to you, and some business going for your company.
Yes, thank you. Antigua and Barbuda, Happy New Year's, and a wonderful good afternoon to you. It's always a pleasure, and I truly mean that, to be speaking to you directly. And so I'm just honored to be here.
Now, there's so many things that are happening as far as renewable energy is concerned,
right?
Especially here in Antigua and Barbuda, because some monies were proposed for development of a plant in Antigua and Barbuda. We know for a fact that there's a solar panel park just below the V.C. Berth International Airport.
Right.
And so again, refresh our memory about W.I.R.E.
Right. And I'm so glad you said that, because what I want us to do just at the start of our conversation to just touch on points from our previous conversation. We noted that Antigua, because Antigua's economy is such a unique situation, no matter how the conversation twists and turns, it will always lead back to energy. We noted that tourism probably most likely account for less than 60%. That is usually the common belief that 60% makes up our GDP of tourism makes up 60% of our GDP, but that number was back in the 1990s, and so it's a much lower, and we use the occupancy rate throughout the islands as an indicator. And the government now, because tourism isn't enough to sustain our economy, the government has to borrow money from outside entities, other governments and other financial institutions, just to sustain our economy. We talked about the BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. They were just like Antigua. They were deemed as a developing country, and the leaders of the country transitioned their the economy from an agricultural society to manufacturing to a manufacturing society. And as a result, Brazil, Russia, India, and China today have the best performing GDPs in the world and the fastest growing economies. And so we suggested that the Prime Minister ought to as well transition Antigua's economy from a tourism-based society to a manufacturing society if he intends for Antigua to become the economic powerhouse that he speaks of. And with that, let me just interject and say that I'm not saying that we should, knock down the walls of tourism. In fact, I have friends of mine, close friends of mine, have intentions of getting into the tourist industry. And given the ideas that they proposed to me, I told them that is a phenomenal idea. So I have nothing against tourism. I think it's a great market. It will forever be here. But the government should shift its emphasis onto another industry altogether. And then with that as well, it might seem like I'm stepping on the toes of the Prime Minister when I say, and the government, but I'm really not. I'm just, speaking truth to power. With hotels, whenever politicians, they've come to us and talked to us about an investor is coming in to build a hotel, we, not to be rude, but we should just say chups and turn our heads the other way. Or if we're watching television, we should just change the channel or turn it off until we think they're finished. And, when we think they're finished, turn it back on. Because if hotels throughout year round are struggling to maintain a 50% occupancy rate throughout the year, the question one has to ask is, where are the tourists going to come from to fill these new luxurious 4- and 5-star hotels that will be built in the future? And so it makes sense for the current hotels that are there to be renovated, to be propped up first before building new hotels, as well as loans. Whenever you hear politicians brag about loans, we were successful in getting such XYZ loan from XYZ person. it's not something to brag about, because when we cannot pay back these loans, we have to give up our pound of flesh in the form of lands, our passports via the CIP program, our assets such as our power plants and other utilities. And this, when we do that, when we entertain politicians in this sort of rhetoric, it allows for us to be hoodwinked and bamboozled. And so when that happens, we do not have the right to complain that things are getting hard and so forth, because we are the ones, not the politicians, but we are the ones that's harboring this type of environment. And then, for the more or less, Antigua and Barbuda, they're transitioning to a manufacturing society. Antigua's economy is in a conundrum, because the more developed Antigua becomes, the higher the cost of energy becomes, because there is limited supply. There is only one independent power provider in Antigua, which is APC. And so the solution would be to have at least 2 to 3 different energy independent power providers. Right. Mm-hmm. And this is where W.I.R.E comes in. W.I.R.E intends to install an offshore wind farm, which would ultimately reduce our dependence on fossil fuel, as well as reduce the cost of energy throughout the nation, because as it is right now, there's only one independent power provider. And when there is a monopoly in any industry, in any field, naturally, the cost of whatever that commodity is going to be high. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I'd love for us to move. Well, also, one thing that I'm very, very, very grateful that you said in our last conversation was that you proposed, and this was totally from your insight, that APC should serve as an investor into W.I.R.E Limited moving forward. And that was very insightful of you. And I said, I'm glad you said it and not me. And the reason why I'm glad you said it and not me, because I'm very, very aware that as the director of W.I.R.E, what I have going for me is my youthfulness, my drive. And what I have going against me is my same youthfulness. If I had said, first that APC should be an investor in W.I.R.E, it's natural, it's normal. It would have been normal for the Prime Minister along with his cabinet to say, oh, this guy is he's too ambitious, he's naive, he's in over his head. And so the fact that this idea, that insight or revelation came from you, it goes to show that there is some credibility, there is some viability moving forward with the owners of APC joining hands with W.I.R.E Limited, moving forward to making sure that Antigua and Barbuda goes green and
make certain they survive also.
Right, exactly. Exactly. You're so right.
Because they'll be looking into the 21st century. Right. With a brand new technology as far as energy is concerned.
Exactly. And given the fact that their contract expires in 2018.
No.
right. So you're absolutely correct. Now, some guys, as a young black male, some guys have a love for cars, others have a love for video games, other for clubbing, fetting, going out. But for me, it's studying market trends, studying how the market is transitioning from one fad to a next fad. And so in order to do that, it requires a lot of research and a lot of reading and analyzing. My friends that I hang out with, some of the guy friends think I'm too... Oh, Shanti think he's too better than us now. He doesn't even hang out with us anymore. Or female friends that I'm intimate with, not all at the same time, but one after the one relationship after the other.
I had some color to Observer PM for me this afternoon.
Right.
Let's say you're not given the time that you need to be given, they think.
Exactly. They think I'm cheating on them or what have you. But no,
you're pursuing the development of Antigua and Barbuda and also your company.
Exactly. And I always, for the most part, I always come out on top because several examples. Right? Studying the markets, Facebook, for example, and I have several. before Facebook is now public. It was once private. So it was once owned by Mark Zuckerberg only. I like to write. I wrote an article about Facebook going public, which is to say that the ordinary man like you and I would be able to own shares, own stocks in Facebook. It's being listed on the New York Stock Exchange. I wrote an article, and it's still up on my website, about Facebook going public.
What's the website?
A note to blackmen.wordpress.com.
Repeat that.
A note to blackmen.wordpress.com.
Okay.
And I talked about Facebook going public. My friends and by friends I mean some older investors, friends who invest as well in the stock market, they said Facebook will never go public. It's just a social networking website. Look on MySpace, right? MySpace was once the huge thing, and now nobody even study MySpace, right? But they didn't know. That's how they saw it. I saw it as MySpace is where it's at now because of Facebook. Facebook is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. 6 months later, Facebook went public. In my article, I said Facebook would open up. It would be worth around $13 to $19 just from my analysis. It didn't. It opened up at $38. Some my friends, they bought it at $39 per share per stock. Some bought it at $41, $42. When they told me, I said, "Whoa, what are you guys doing? It's not supposed to be that high. Y'all should not have bought into it." They didn't listen to me. About a month or two later, Facebook stock came crashing down, and guess where it bottomed out at? $19 per stock. So I bought it at $21 per stock and later sold it. Right now, Facebook is valued at $95 per stock. So if you had bought $100 worth of stock back then, you would now have $500. If you had bought $10,000 worth of stock, it would now be worth $50,000, right? So I said that it's worth that. It bottomed out at there. Now I told them, I messaged them, I said it's going to go up and it's not going to look back since. They have the heart. One of them had the heart to message me and say, "What makes you think Facebook is going to go up?" And I'm thinking to myself, why would you doubt me? I said at the start that Facebook is going to go public. It did. I said that it's worth around $13 to $19. That's where it bottomed out at. And so if I said it would increase and go up, skyrocket, which it has, I'm just thinking to myself, why? Now, second issue, in terms of studying the markets, right? I was invited by the great Alex Nicholas, and I mean that because he's truly a phenomenal individual. I watch him work, and this guy is just a workaholic. I was invited on his show, the Monday Night Live, last year, February, I think, 2014 or February 2014. And at the top of his show, I said that we ought to say a prayer for Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro, because at the time they're going through some civil unrest. And I said, if things take a turn for the worse there, it will take a turn for the worse here in Antigua and Barbuda. 2 weeks later, exactly, there were gas shortages throughout the entire country. I don't know if you remember that. But cars were
stalled on the road.
Right, stalled on the road. They were swamped. They were around the gas stations.
They couldn't get in.
Right, like bees on a beehive. Right. And so
the flies on the honey.
There you go. There you go. I also said that everything hinges in Antigua's economy. Everything hinges on energy. And if the government doesn't tackle that issue of energy, everything will go up. And just before the New Year's, I was shocked. And at the same time, I still wasn't shocked when the government announced that the water will increase, medical benefit paying into it will increase, social security will increase, food has gone up, gas prices are still high. The last time I was here, I talked about the airport, and there's not enough energy within Antigua and Barbuda. And if the airport were to be fully functional, there would be a shortage, and which would cause a blackout. Now, there wasn't exactly a blackout in the area, but there was a shortage that caused for the power at the airport to shut down and caused for 2 international flights to be delayed. And this, when the last conversation was the 1st of December.
Well, somewhere around the 1st of December.
Right.
Yeah.
And within less than 2 months, talking about the airport, it has happened. And so with regards now to what we're talking about today, moving forward, my goal and focus as director of W.I.R.E Limited is to be awarded the contract, the power purchase agreement to install an offshore wind farm, because I truly believe that with this installation of our offshore wind farm, life for every single Antiguan and Barbudan, whether you're red or whether you're blue, whether you were born here or whether you got your citizenship and you're eventually you became an Antiguan, life for every single Antiguan will be better. The cost of living will decrease. I was shocked to read, well, not shocked, but I was amused when I read an article by the Caribbean News Service, and I believe, yes, Antigua Observer also has it published that the government was awarded a $40 million US. Well, sorry, that was the overall account, but Antigua in particular they were awarded $15 million for a wind and energy project. Now, nothing has been said just yet as to what the government will do with that $15 million, how exactly it would be allocated between the wind and solar. So right now, speaking, we have to speak as on a what if situation. We have to be doing, and I see we have to go on break, so I'll end.
You read in the chat, huh?
Yeah.
Got to take a commercial break. We'll be right back.
With 100% financing on all new vehicles in stock. It's no deposit, low monthly payments, free insurance, license and plates, 1 year's free service, and much more for persons who qualify. So, check us out today for the hottest deal of the season. We're giving you a reason to drive in style.
Don't delay, come check us today. We got the full 100.
Terms and conditions apply.
Blazing a trail to follow, building towards tomorrow. Solutions to reach your goals. Antigua Commercial Bank. Feel free to dream, free to soar. We're the bank that gives much more. Free to grow, free to plan, exceeding your demands. Strength, service, solutions. Antigua Commercial Bank.
You're listening to Observer PM with Dave Lester Payne on Observer Radio 91.1 FM.
Thank you for staying with us. A bunch of keys was lost somewhere between APUA and High Street, CTV on Long Street, on St. Mary's Street, and Barkin Center Hardware parking lot within those areas. If found, please drop it off here at Observer Radio as soon as possible. There's a blue bottle opener attached to the keys. It is rather important, if you find those keys, to please bring them to us here at Observer Radio as soon as possible. With us this afternoon, of course, Shante Codrington. What I like about Mr. Codrington, outside of his youthfulness, he's very determined, and he does his homework and what needs to be done and how it should be done. And his project is the development of Antigua and Barbuda, so all of us will benefit. The long term, of course, is that his company will benefit. But if his company benefit, it's a development for Antigua and Barbuda. All of us benefit. And like the Prime Minister says, how to build wealth.
Right.
And that's by building wealth for all of us in Antigua and Barbuda.
Perfect.
So, why?
No, you're always on the ball. You're always saying the right thing. So
no, but it's a fact. That's what the company's all about. And when we look at the nature of the business, and you hear it all every day of the cost, because energy cost, the higher the petrol is, the more we're going to pay for the electricity,
food,
for water, for everything, transportation, getting things in and out of Antigua, even an airline ticket. The cost depends on the cost of fuel. Now, fuel is at what, $30 a barrel now?
About there, and.
But tell me, before you even give me the price, what will happen now that Iran is back on, hopefully to come in the market?
Right, that is, well, I should say first that know that the
embargo?
Right, the embargoes have been lifted. Whatever oil that Venezuela begins to produce, we won't really see any changes just yet.
You mean Iran?
Iran, right, right. We won't. What did I say?
Venezuela.
Sorry,
Venezuela
Iran, right. Because I'm going to touch on them in a bit. But we won't really see any benefits from that oil just yet. It'll take a few years before it's actually in the pipeline and we consuming it. But it's a great for the world market, for investors, because now any investor can go to in Iran, purchase property, build up businesses and so forth. And that means more money for the investor.
Now tell me, the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda spoke of a relationship that they're trying to garner with Russia as far as petrol is concerned.
That I'm not aware of, but just that alone, that is more than enough, and it goes to show that we're still stuck in one way of thinking. We have to get away from our dependency on fossil fuel. Right. The Petro-Carib Agreement, and I'll read here again. An article from Observer is titled Chavez's Oil and Antigua and Barbuda's Debt, which was dated March 13, 2013. The Petro-Carib Agreement, to which Antigua and Barbuda signed, simply allows for the purchase of oil at market value, with a 5% to 50% upfront. Countries would then be allowed a 2-year grace period with a payment plan through 17 to 25 years with 1% to 2% interest if oil prices were above $40 per barrel, unquote. Now, that is very important, because what it is saying in layman's term, if oil prices, right now we're only paying, well, I shouldn't say right now, but last year, the money that we owe Venezuela, the interest that we were paying is only 1 to 2%. Within the contract that Antigua and Barbuda signed, it stated that if oil prices were above $40 per barrel, we'll only pay 1 to 2%. If it falls below $40 per barrel, which it has, I'm reading here.
Yeah, it says. I have the documentation there.
Right. U.S. oil settles at $33.16 a barrel, down 10% for the week. And this is from Energy CNBC.com, right?
Yeah.
So
that's where I got that from.
Right. And thank you for this document as well, too. So U.S., the price for a barrel of oil is below $40.
Very much so.
What that means now, our interest rate has gone up. So
wait, slow your roll.
Right. I know.
Slow your roll.
Right.
You're telling me as it dips within the agreement,
right,
as the price dips below $40,
right,
the interest that we pay goes up.
Has gone up, right.
It has gone up.
It has gone up because...
Yeah, but is there a need for us to have that? No, that I could see the need when the barrel of oil was 150, 140.
Right.
But are we benefiting from this agreement with Petro-Carib, knowing now where the level of the prices?
We're benefiting in the sense that we only get to pay 5 to 50% upfront of what we borrowed. So if, let's just throwing this number out there, if in a given month we borrow $100 worth of barrel of oil, right? We only compelled to pay Venezuela $5 to $50 upfront, whichever we so choose. Now remember, we took $100 worth, and we if we so choose, we can pay up to $50. Now, what the agreement is saying, we have 17 to 25 years to pay off for it. But whatever we owe, we will be paying 1 to 2% interest. If, however, the value of oil goes down, which it has in reality, our interest will increase above. And I don't know exactly what that interest is as of today, but it's stated that the interest will go up. So we're not really benefiting. Even though the barrel of oil has gone down, we're still, to a great degree.
Because of the rate they lend us the money was because the oil prices were so high.
Right.
So they gave us that low interest rate.
Right.
Now, when it dips below $40, it's going to affect them as far as whatever they get into their treasury. Well, and it's craziness down there in Venezuela now.
Right.
Venezuela and Trinidad, they're screaming.
They are.
Because their budgetary layout for their country, the forecast is not going to meet because the oil prices are below what they had budgeted for.
Exactly.
And $40 was somewhere in that budget item.
Right.
You know? And they're saying if it goes below now, we're going to pay a higher interest rate.
Right. So they've shifted now. And, I mean, we still have to be grateful for the contract, because when that contract was signed, the price for a barrel of oil was astronomically high. And no one predicted that the cost for a barrel of oil would decrease dramatically.
But I heard that that it should bottom out at about $25 a barrel.
And the more it bottoms out...
I heard that in Business News and CNN.
But that's good generally. But for Antigua in particular, and the contract that we signed on to...
It's bad. Because the lower it gets, the higher the interest we have to pay.
Right. But we still have to be grateful to Venezuela for the oil that they've supplied to us. But you're absolutely correct. The lower the price of oil goes, the higher the interest is. With regards to the wind farm, according to Caribbean News Service and Antigua Observer, the government of Antigua and Barbuda was awarded $15 million loan for a wind solar energy project.
It's a loan.
And so we have to pay that money back plus interest. That's what a loan means. Now, I should state, again, and I have to say, we have to look on it as a what-if situation, because they haven't really done anything with the monies yet, so we can't really critique or criticize whether good or bad what
the
it is
handling
they're
of the
doing.
money.
Right. But we do have to, again, look on it on a what-if situation. But before we do, and from hence on out, I'll be using the word if a lot. But before I go on, let me say that the responsibility of the government, of any government rather, is not to create jobs, but rather to create the environment in which jobs are to be created.
I mean that, of course, if the environment is right, entrepreneurship and all that will flourish.
Perfect.
Folks will go out and become their own business owners.
Exactly. Making sure that the business climate is healthy, that entrepreneurs should not have to wait 3 to 4 weeks just for their businesses to be registered, which I'm a victim of. In fact, it was even longer than 3 to 4 weeks, but that's water under the bridge.
That's the big bridge.
Yes. That resources are available for entrepreneurs, and when that is the case.
But when you say resources, are you saying that within the development context of any economy,
right,
that government has a responsibility to make certain that there's funding for entrepreneurship?
It's not really a responsibility of the government.
Because we're a capitalistic country.
Right.
It can't be the government's responsibility to create funding.
No, it's not. It's not. It's an added bonus. But
okay.
If the government does not, then it's not required. So now, when the business climate is a healthy one in any nation, then businesses would be the one to create the jobs for the government. And the Prime Minister himself said that we as Antiguans cannot and should not depend on the public sector, which is the government, for a living, because if the public sector fails, then we all fail. And so that we should do something for ourselves, and even if that means burning coal. Now, if the government were to attempt to install the wind farm themselves from the loan that they were given by the United Arab Emirates. It would mean, from my standpoint, that the government, that the Prime Minister intends and expect for his son to be the only entrepreneur to be able to own lands in excess of $700,000 and yachts in his name, while everyone else should, make do what they can and burn coal as well. Because again, the responsibility of the government is not to create jobs; it's to create the environment in which jobs can be created.
I'm going to stop you here. So you're saying that $15 million,
right?
Instead of the government now facilitating that loan by themselves,
right?
This is an opportunity for them to take on viable developers, which are private,
right?
And that is where W.I.R.E needs a job.
Exactly. The contract, right.
W.I.R.E needs a contract.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, he also talks about the Prime Minister. He also talks about entrepreneur socialism. And I must admit, that's the first time I've heard that concept. It's, to me, personally, it seems like an oxymoron, which is it's just like saying...
I have a song there, a brand new song, Oxy or Moron.
It's like saying an oxymoron is a term that contradicts itself. So it's like saying the cold sun or the warm ice. It's so when you say entrepreneur socialism, it's if he intends, along with his cabinet, to use that $15 million to overlook W.I.R.E and invest in a wind farm themselves, for me, what that entrepreneur socialism would mean is that the entrepreneur comes up with the idea and the government takes it over. And again, that's
bad.
That is very bad.
For development.
Exactly. And for investors, even international, they would want to step away from Antigua, because if that's the norm here, then which investor would want to come and invest? Because then you're going to do the same thing with them.
So the government now, in their wisdom, as you see it from W.I.R.E standpoint,
right,
with that $15 million for solar energy wind farm,
right,
they should then look within here in Antigua and Barbuda,
perfect,
and see where the competency level is as far as development of such a project. And you're saying that W.I.R.E has the competency,
right,
to develop this.
Exactly. And it goes back to what you said in our previous conversation, whereas you saw it fit that that APC could be a potential viable investor. The government themselves can be an investor with that US $15 million into W.I.R.E Limited.
By investing into a private.
By investing into buying
so that's
shares.
a private government-private business.
No, in terms of, because the government now can buy shares in W.I.R.E Limited, and when they own shares now, they can later, at whether it's 5, 10, 15 years down the line, sell back that share and make a profit. And so it's a situation where everybody wins.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same. It's a similar situation with General Motors back in 2008 when the government decided to bail them out.
But Mr. Codrington, $15 million US based on your project. Your project needs lots more than $15 million US.
It is the overall figure. But I've structured it in such a way that it's incremental.
So you're saying, based on that $15 million, it is enough.
A portion of it, right?
Yeah. What do you mean a portion?
A portion,
because are they using it for something else?
Solar, they may.
Oh yeah, but you're into solar also.
Right. But the contract that I'm after, the power purchase agreement, is for a wind farm. Right.
Okay. So you're saying with an injection from an amount from that,
right,
can help to boost W.I.R.E on the way as far as wind.
Well, when you say boost, really, what's the only thing
you need money? You need a contract,
right? That's what I'm after, the contract, not necessarily the money from the government.
But you need to say, give me the contract,
right? That's what I'm after.
Because
first,
the viability for your company, you're not dependent on their $15 million, but you need a contract,
exactly.
Because at the end of the day, you need to sell that power energy supply that you're getting back to the government.
Exactly. And if I were to just somehow be able to install a wind farm, right, out of the blue. I'm not saying that that's possible, but just painting a picture. The government now is not obligated to purchase that electricity that the offshore wind farm produce. And
that
so
is why you need
the contract,
a contract.
right?
Because you need to sell it to somebody.
Exactly. And so the power purchase agreement is what I'm after. Now, if they so choose, it would be a wise investment if they were to invest a portion of that 15 million into W.I.R.E Limited, owning shares, and whenever they so choose, sell the shares back, whether it's 6-9 years down the line.
But do you know if that loan that they got is dependent on those folks who lend the money they would be bringing in their own personal to set up such an entity?
No, from what I read, it's they were approved the US $15 million.
So they would have had applied for that. The government of Antigua
Some
and Barbuda.
negotiations would have taken place on the part of the Prime Minister.
But the reason why I'm saying that, if you're going to go into a negotiation, then you must have known who will be able to give you a plant, a wind plant, and also a solar plant.
Well, you're correct. From what I imagine, I just imagine the Prime Minister.
You think they're considering you? I keep asking you now.
It's a viable question.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you and I have spoken on many occasions. But what is the conversation between you and the government of Antigua and Barbuda?
I'm so glad you said that. You're always on the ball. Jojo, your co-worker, he loves to say, we live in we want Antigua to be a first world country, but yet still we have a third world mentality. And like you just said a while ago, we've spoken on many occasions, and I would imagine that the government the Prime Minister, along with his cabinet members, would have at least sent me a letter from the cabinet secretary to state that we understand what you are doing. We are aware of what the process is.
Have you let them?
Well, I'm going to touch on that. I'm going to touch on that in just a second. But I was saying now, even so much as a letter to let me know as director of W.I.R.E Limited that they, for whatever reasons, they're tied up with other business interests, and so you can expect to hear from us within the next month or 3 months or what have you, but absolutely nothing. And so it goes to what Jojo says. We want Antigua and Barbuda to be a first world country, and we have a third world mentality, and it's not just among the populace, it's to the highest administration in Antigua and Barbuda. So the government is no exception as well. It's not just the people. Now, the last parliament session of 2015, I decided to sit in, and I was waiting for the Prime Minister to get up and step out, and he did, and I went out to meet him. I sent a message letting him know that I'm outside and if he could speak with me just briefly, and he did. He was gracious enough to speak with me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. Now, I told him, I let him know that I understand that you're a busy guy. If I can just I'd love to set up an appointment with you, even if it's just for 5 minutes, to get on the same wavelength. And so he said, sure, no problem. He gave me his number to his secretary and told me to call her to set up an appointment. I did. And the secretary set up the appointment on a national holiday, which was Youth Rally. Now, I don't know. I won't make the assumption to say that it was political, but as director, and the work that I've put in thus far, I said I'm going to show up for the time that they put me in, because it's not going to be a situation where they said show up on X date at X time and I didn't show up. So I even though I knew it was a public holiday, even though I knew that he most likely will not be there, I'm going to take the initiative to be there. But an hour or two before the time appointed, another secretary had called me and told me that the meeting has cancelled and they will let me know when the next appointment will be. And so that is my government, Dave, at work for me, and so that is the situation as of right now.
So you're still waiting for that call?
I'm still waiting. And again, it has to go. I'm going to lean on what Jojo says. We want Antigua to be a first world country, but we still have a third world mentality.
Well, Mr. Codrington, answer me this. Has you ever sent a formal request in writing
Right, I have.
to the Prime Minister?
I have. And this was
the current Prime Minister?
I have.
Because if you also send one to the former Prime
I
Minister.
did, right. And I also did in about June, July of 2014. And again, I met with him, which was the last Parliament session of 2015, gave me his number to his secretary. Secretary set up the appointment on a national holiday and later was called by another secretary stating that the appointment.
But at least they have your number.
They do, correct.
Because they call you.
Correct. They
Perseverance is the key to success. Why don't you again find a way to send an official document to the Prime Minister?
That is exactly what I've done, but I just want to make sure that all my T's have been crossed and all my I's
have been dotted.
That have been dotted. And so this is the state of play right now. I do want to, within the last remaining minutes, want to just shift gears a little bit, unless you have any other questions with regards to.
No, because you see the fact you're the player, you're the techie as far as this is concerned.
Oh, perfect.
So what you're offering to the general populace, and so I'll listen.
Okay, perfect.
And they're listening too.
And thank you for your listening ear. Now, with regards to entrepreneurship and the young man that was here before me, I admire
Mr. Bernard Warner.
Right, he as disabled as he is, still has an entrepreneur spirit, right?
Yeah.
And so there is no, he should serve as an inspiration to know that nothing should stop because the listening audience, they can't see, but he, and for those who don't know him personally, he has one leg, and of course he's disabled. So for you to have one leg and still have that drive that he has, to still have an entrepreneur spirit, there is no excuse. But in the last few minutes, I want to acknowledge Colin John Jenkins. I've never met him. I've only seen him around. I know he was on the committee of the TEDx, which was responsible for TEDx Antigua here in Antigua. And I could be mistaken, but I think he was also on the committee for the National Youth Forum, which made history in 2014. Can you imagine?
That debate you're talking about?
Right. Can you imagine 33 years of independence? And, well, I think it was 31 at the time. And after 31 years, it is only now two political parties sat down together
to listen,
to debate one each other and to listen to the people. That's very immature of the politics here in Antigua and Barbuda. But he did a survey, and I really intend to picture frame this article and lock it away in like a safe or what have you, so for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, so they can see how far back we've gone as a nation. In the article, it reads, the survey was taken by 946 secondary school students here in Antigua, where office administration, principle of business, principles of accounts were among the top 10 most popular subjects to be taken for CSEC, and top subject students wished to take for the CSEC but could not. Despite the popularity of business-related subjects in school, only 3 students among those surveyed, which was 946, selected entrepreneur as their career of choice. And that goes to show to the mind frame, the mind state that we are as a people. 3 out of 946. In 2016, moving forward, we have to begin planting seeds of entrepreneurship, because it is the entrepreneurs, the small businesses, the local companies that will make Antigua and Barbuda an economic powerhouse, not loans, not investors from outside who wants to set up and build hotels here. It is the small business owners, the entrepreneurship. I remember when I was in Houston last year, and I was living with my sister at the time, staying with my sister, and she has 2 sons, right? And the oldest son was giving her every day the teacher called us. Damien is giving problems. Damien is giving problems in school and so forth and so forth. And I just within the 2 weeks that I was there, or month I think, I realized what the problem is, and that the problem was not just her alone. I realized that's the problem generally with black students, with black children, black young males. We tend to often ask young children, "Are you behaving yourself?" Which implies that they're not behaving. They're bad, and so that messes with their psyche. That messes with their child. And so I sat down. I called him into my room, the room that I was staying. I said, "Damien, I heard you're not behaving in school. What's happening? What's wrong?" He said, "Well, I am being a good boy, but the other kids keep troubling me." I said, "Okay, from now on, whenever you kids call you bad, I want you to stand up to them and say, you're not bad, and here's what I want you to do from now on. You and your little brother," and he was about 7 or 8. I said, "You and your younger brother, your responsibility from now on is to be a good boy, get good grades in school so you can start your own business, and you can hire your brother. You and your brother start a business, and you can hire other people," right? So I tell him, repeat what I just said to me. He said, "Whenever kids tell me I'm bad, I'm going to stand up and say I'm not bad, and I'm going to start a business with my brother, and so we can hire people." The next day he went to school, he came back. He said, "Shante," he came back home. He said, "Shante, my teacher says she wants to speak with you," right? And I'm thinking to myself, what did I do now? I said, "What happened?" He says, "Well, this boy was troubling me, and the boy said that I was a bad student, and I said that I wasn't a bad student, and I'm going to start a business with my brother, and I'm going to hire people." And so my teacher called me up and told me why I said that, and I told her that you gave me the idea, and so she wants to speak with me. And just within that alone, the teacher was shocked. She didn't call my sister. That the psyche of that young black male has changed to once you replace that with what the images that they're seeing on TV and giving them planting that seed of entrepreneurship, everything falls back into place. And so I said that so that the government as well now, tying that back into the conversation, that the government now, it's important for them to endorse young entrepreneurs like myself. The fact that I'm wanting to install an offshore wind farm, don't overlook me and decide to just take the idea for yourself, or don't try to bring in somebody else to do the idea. Endorse me, acknowledge me, because the competency, that is not just me alone. Again, I have to acknowledge as well the management team of W.I.R.E, because and there's a reason why I haven't really let the public know exactly who these individuals are, because they're young adults like myself, but I'm very well aware that being the son of a politician, especially one that has lost his seat, and the party of the father is out of power, negative attacks are going to come from all over. People are going to say what they want to say, and people are going to do what they want to do. And I didn't feel it right to expose them to such negativity
because of you.
Exactly. And so there's a reason why I haven't really let known to the public who they are, but they will in due time. And so I have to also give credit to the management team of W.I.R.E, because W.I.R.E Limited would not reach as far as it is now without their continuous support. And so I think it's very important that we acknowledge businessmen and women here in Antigua and Barbuda, and ultimately that the government should at least pay the respect to W.I.R.E Limited, and at least a letter of some form from the cabinet secretary stating when they would be able to or would like to invite me and the management team to present our proposal in W.I.R.E Limited.
One quick question. Have you ever tried to get a meeting with the Minister of Energy?
I have, but that was from the same previous conversation where I said that...
Yeah, but CCing letters is a good thing.
I can't. You're correct. I can't recall if I did CC a letter to the ministry, but given that you said that, I will moving forward.
Yeah, because that's the Minister of Energy.
Right.
And by going, I'm just saying cover all your bases.
Right. And the reason being is because I know I'm very well aware of the back and forth with Antigua government, and so it's just hitting at the base. I don't want to have to speak to somebody who has to speak to somebody else who has to speak to somebody else.
In this Antigua world, you may have to just do that. And you may be surprised that the Minister of Energy may have more connection to the folks with energy than you may deem possible.
Perfect. You're absolutely correct.
Now, again, our time has come and gone. And I do hope that you'll find a way to meet with the powers that be, especially when we have 15 million floating around in currency that can do a lot for us here in Antigua and Barbuda. Energy is the key, and of course, fossil fuel can take us down a path that our survival is limited. So here's hoping that we can find a way to and let Mother Earth loves us.
Right.
By
so
treating
true.
Mother Earth right, by getting away from fossil fuel.
So true.
Thanks for being with us today. And again, I continue to wish you and your company the best of everything and your spirit. I like your spirit. Stay true to yourself.
Thank you, Dave. I greatly appreciate the opportunity and just the love that you blessed me with. So I want to say thank you again.
Have a great new year and a prosperous one too.